What do you think, Michael, is the best and worst aspects of being a digital nomad? What's the best and worst?
The best is the freedom. Like, at any time, you can just start over somewhere. And that's super good for growth. I think like living many lives, many new lives is much better for growth than living the same life over and over again. Like before I became a digital nomad, I was working a normal 9-to-5 office job kind of, and it seemed like living the same day over and over again in a way. Like you get in a routine.
I never heard that before, but it resonates a lot. Like that's kind of true.
And so if you spend like a few months doing the exact same thing every day, it really is like one day in a sense. The only thing that matters is the differences between the day. The new people you meet, the new things you try. And when you're traveling, you meet so many new people and try things you've never done every day, almost, you know?
Yep.
And the worst thing is, for me, how much time you lose in
Just traveling.
like, yeah, it's like checking out of hotels and into a new one, and moving between spots and trying to figure out how to, you know, exercise and get the food you like and breaking all your routines like that. Those kind of things are what.
What do you find is an optimal amount of time to stay in one spot?
I'd say like, for me, around 2 months, I start to feel like I'm getting in my comfort zone after a couple months. And so it's going to be challenging here, you know, at the 2-3 month mark, where I'll probably get that travel itch again. But like, it's so easy to take a flight somewhere from here, and you get that adventure, and then maybe come back.
Do you think there is some value in living the same day over and over? Kind of you get to hone in on some specific relationships or skills that only become apparent as you do it over and over.
Yeah, there's something to be said for that, but there's a trade-off, because it's like, do you want to go deep or you want to go wide? I think sometimes it's the same thing for relationships, like romantic relationships. Like if you marry someone and have a 20-year marriage, there's levels of depth that you can reach that are not possible. But if you have 21-year relationships, you're gonna like live so many lives with those people, and I think at the end of it, the 20 different relationships, you'll be a more complete person in a lot of ways. But you'll never reach that depth you can of trust with the one person.
True, so there are some trade-offs. But it does intuitively make sense to make many iterations, sort of, like a startup. You try and you clean the slate, try again.
True.
I mean,
we also do that with jobs. Like, if someone's working for the same company for 20 years, how much have they really been growing? Like, if you're hiring somebody, you want somebody that has had many jobs and has grown in their role, not just stayed at the same place.
True. So if you optimize for growth, that might be a thing.
Some people would prefer to optimize for safety.
Indeed, it's like the preference. What is something you are excited about currently, or that you have top of mind?
Every day, I'm like keeping on track of what's happening with AI. And
that's a big...
each new thing that comes out is a new, like, I'm changing how I think the future is going to be in the next couple of years, all the time. And so my mind is always alive with that to try to figure out what's happening. Because I believe there's massive change coming in just about every industry.
Yeah.
In the next like 2 years, 3 years, something like that, or less. And to be aware of all these changes lets me see what's coming before it's on me.
Yeah.
And it seems super important now.
It does seem, and it's also valuable to see it before it happens.
I feel, well, I had that talk about you have superpowers now with AI.
Yes.
For the lightning talk, and I think there's this period now where people who know how to use these tools can already have these superpowers while everyone else is walking around like a normal human.
And we are not yet at that point when you are replaced by the, there is still not the AI podcast host,
Right,
but
right.
AI can help me a lot with, or whatever industry in AI can help you. At some time, it's gonna replace you, but we're not there yet.
There's this lag between like right now, for example, if you ask ChatGPT about the newest AI tool that came out, it has no idea because right now its knowledge is locked to about a year ago. And they can update it a little bit with some things in a certain way, but so the AI can't tell you how to use AI yet. And even humans really can't as well because we're all still discovering that. So while we can use AI for anything that happened, before 2023 to teach us that, we can't tell it we can't ask it to explain how to use AI.
Because it's a new tool that
Right,
it hasn't
right.
been trained upon.
Right, and AI is trained upon all the information in the world, and so it understands all of human knowledge, but it's missing what's happening recently.
So how do you see in a couple of years, like what are some dramatic changes you expect to see on any time scale you might choose? How would you describe?
Some major ones is, of course, massive change in how economies work, where, well, first off, easy enough to replace like white collar workers who are processing knowledge in ways that are, with current technology, easily replaced.
So
And
automation at like a different level.
yeah, but digital. But then there's also been a massive growth with robotics and the knowledge there, and you see these like videos of robots doing backflips or sorting things, and some places saying they can get these out for 15,000 or 30,000, which is the price of a car, and so that starts to make a lot of old sci-fi concepts of like robot butlers and all these things possible.
Yes.
But the way I think that plays out, that's maybe coming a few years from now, whereas right now digital things can be replaced immediately. So one thing I see in the meantime as a stopgap between that is that I think in certain jobs, low-wage workers will wear things kind of like the Meta glasses that have a camera and go directly to an LLM, and they'll have programming that goes to an earpiece that tells them what their next step of their job is.
They're being controlled by the AI in a sense.
Right, essentially.
Or given directions.
And for some jobs, they'll be happy for that because they'll be happy to have the job, and that they might not be skilled for the job that they're doing, but the AI bridges that gap. But this gets people used to being controlled by AI at these levels, at the lower levels. And I think as well, some people, maybe someone with ADD or different kind of issues, will like to have that as more of a helper in their daily life rather than telling what to do all the time, but telling them what to do. They need to fix the plumbing, or they just need help getting through their daily task list. They put this on sometimes when they want to.
Yep.
And this converges into like people being used to being ordered around by AI and accepting that.
In a way, I myself, we are in Malaysia right now. When I want to figure out what does this cost in Malaysian to euro, I might ask ChatGPT fast. Left. And in many small ways, I'm already outsourcing my own thinking to AIs.
Right. Starting
probably
to use it as a crutch in some ways.
Yeah, it's more and more, but I suppose it will accelerate. What are some ways that you are you building anything with AI or using AI in your own kind of?
Yeah, so I do software development with AI, which makes me like ever increasingly more efficient. Like I could do what I could do 6 months ago, but I can do it 10 times faster now. And then for a year ago, when I first started using AI, like I'm maybe 20 times faster than I was then. And so that means like as a developer, I don't need to recruit a team of people anymore.
Say again, how much faster do you believe you are now?
Since before AI, I would say like 20 times faster. Like a project, a lot of the time you lose is on getting things set up or little things that block you for a day or two, or sometimes just have you go do something else entirely and come back later. But now, whenever you're stuck, you can just ask an LLM, like, explain the situation, and it'll get you
Yes.
unstuck. So there's more flow state as well with coding, where I can stay just in the, like,
The
making
fun.
iterative better and better rather
Yeah.
than getting stuck on something stupid.
Because that's what always I felt was so. What's the word? I didn't enjoy programming because it was always you get stuck on a bug.
Right,
And
right.
it was always about getting stuck and getting unstuck. Now it feels like it's more about creating with AI currently.
And so I see like the amount of developer skill that you need to build something, like constantly going down. And so like a single person who has never coded before, there's certain tools they can use that they can just prompt and say, I want this to exist, this kind of website with this kind of interface. And like more and more it can nail that in most cases now for simple things, and it's growing every day.
Yep.
As people learn how to stack these different LLMs and prompts on top of each other so that it can handle all the complexities. And so there'll not too long from now be a time where people have that app idea and they used to have to pitch it to convince some developer to make it and maybe pay for it. And now it'll just be like your little app creator app that you just talk to it for a minute, and it comes back, asks you some questions, and talk a little more, and then
Yep.
it spits out the app for you that does what you want.
Let's go down to the beach here. We can cross and go back on the beach. That's really amazing because it's it lowers the threshold for anyone to create digital tools, and then it will go into all fields eventually. How what's your setup in programming? Just briefly, like what are you using?
I'm using Replit a lot lately. Replit has an IDE, so I can code in there. It has some AI in that IDE.
Are you using the agents?
Yeah, I'm starting to use that, and
They are pretty sweet.
yeah, that one's really nailing it. It sets up all of the infrastructure for you for things, as long as you keep it simple enough. So then I'm making little microservices that handle different parts. So before you might develop an application of many different parts all together into one monolith. Here I have little services that communicate with each other, and those little services I can do in one shot with Replit Agent.
Right. So the trick is not to make it too complex one project,
Right,
just
right.
one small, and have then use that as a building block.
Yeah, yeah. These different building blocks communicate with each other, and they just handle their one little unit of work.
What's some example of small blocks becoming a bigger whole?
So I've been working here on a system for the Discord to sort all the information of all the people that are communicating here.
Yeah.
And so I have one little building block that's pulling from Discord and getting all that. Another one that is doing processing to pull out data. Another one that's retrieving things and summarizing.
Yeah.
So
And each one of these is a separate REPL. Is it so?
right, yes, yes.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, it part of being the software developer is understanding how much AI at this current time, how much it can handle in one shot, you know?
I love it.
And that number keeps changing, whereas it was, a smaller amount before. Now it can handle more and more, so it's a bit of a moving target, but
Because if you do too much and it doesn't handle it, then you yourself have to go in and start
yeah, exactly.
fixing it, and that takes
exactly.
time. Whereas one shot is one shot, you can move.
Right, right.
You're not even looking at the code essentially. You just
So another tool I use is GitHub Workspaces, which is like a GitHub tool that you can describe the change you want. It's like another agent, but it's connected through GitHub. And so Replit's agent handles infrastructure. This one's a little better at if you want to get into the weeds of how it's coding and see what it's doing
Yeah.
a little more behind the scenes, it's better for that. And like just the other day, I was in a taxi for 30 minutes, and so I was using the GitHub workspace and just describing. I had a list of bugs that I was going through and just describing the bug to that, and then having it do the coding, just kind of like reviewing it. So now with my phone, like no coding, like you can't usually code on the phone. It's too complicated. With you need a keyboard.
Yeah.
But now with these kind of agents,
In the taxi.
yeah, it's in the taxi. And I also see there being room for new kinds of user interfaces. Like obviously, with voice commands, you can do things more naturally or on the go, but you still need to kind of see what's happening. And there's not that ability yet where you can talk to your phone and then see it developing. Like
Yeah.
you can only do an input to a text box with your voice.
So,
But
yes, go ahead.
but I'm foreseeing something that's more something like I want to work on one of my projects. I say to my phone, load up this project. I look, I see there. I might tap once or twice to say which part to work on of an overall map, and then say, okay, where do we leave off here? Okay, let's add this. And the responses have to understand that I'm on the go and that it has to be short and to do a lot of display. But I want to be able to walk, brainstorm, pull up my phone once in a while, and redirect where I'm going.
And kind of look over the shoulder on what it's doing right now.
Right.
Or where you are at, instead of it being the black box. Yeah, I like that. I have felt the same need sometimes.
Yeah, it seems obvious to me, but there's a new pattern for how we interface with the computer. Like the button app touchscreen was the old paradigm for that. And there's a new one that has to emerge, but we haven't quite discovered it yet.
It started with a black terminal. Or the first were the cards, the punch cards, how you compute with the computer. Then we had the black terminal, just keys.
Right.
And then we had the mouse and keyboard. And the next step is maybe just talking to it, like Star Trek computer.
Well, after the mouse and keyboard, there was touchscreens.
Of course.
And so these all dropped the barrier from like just someone who had studied to just a computer nerd to just someone who could use a keyboard. And then with a mouse, it started to be like the 30-year-old non-tech person could do it, but grandma couldn't still. And then with touchscreens, now grandma could maybe use Facebook a little bit or do a couple of things. And then with just being able to explain to an AI with voice, that becomes like everyone.
Yes.
Even someone who's illiterate.
Yes. It's beautiful. How is it coming, this Discord bot you are building on? Is it?
I just finished the version 1 of it, and I presented it to the network school team, and they're getting approval from Balaji to deploy it after he, takes a look at it and makes sure it's what he wants for the people here.
So that's in itself is a new way to interact with information. That instead of going, you can explain briefly what it does like.
Right. So in a Discord with enough people, you have a massive scroll of different people talking about different things, especially here where some people are interested in completely different things.
Yeah.
They want to talk about logistics of living here. They want to talk about their project. They want to talk about what they've seen. They want to talk about this event they want to do, and all these questions. And it becomes unmanageable for the average person without spending all their time on Discord.
It's like 200 people posting. It's a lot of posts.
Right, and if you don't spend all your time on Discord, then you miss things, and FOMO is painful for some people.
Indeed.
So different ways of like summarizing, the ability to ask questions to a chatbot to find stuff you missed, and I'd like it to evolve into understanding different people's preferences. Seeing that they, for example, if they're into martial arts, they've talked about that in the martial arts channel. Someone posts an event that's about that. I wanted to notify them in some way that something they might like is happening. And I also see some kind of matching system is needed. I want to be able to at any time say, I want to find someone to have dinner with today. And for it to find the other people in a similar kind of need. But not just for dinner, for anything, for other activities.
So there's this aspect of this that the better the AI knows you, the better it can answer your needs. Like what would you want to do? So there's that aspect of it that you need to be able to explain or be kind of intimate, at least of your interests.
But it's not always people that exactly match me. It might be, you might want people that are actually quite different.
Fair.
Like sometimes I'll get less value out of talking to someone that's exactly the same as me. Whereas someone that thinks rather differently will bring out a lot.
Yeah,
Other
that's very
things to
true.
me. Now, at network school here, those kind of matching systems are fairly obvious. Like, how do I find these people that are definitely here? But what I think the future holds for humans is those kind of matching systems across the world, like for dating, but
Yeah.
for also for finding a team, or if you have a sport you like in a city, the old way was to look up on the web, maybe find a club for that. But if each person has sort of their interest profile that's tracked by AI and put into some kind of visible system, maybe like a blockchain or just a regular like Google type situation, then people can be matched for their interests or whatever it is they need. Kind of like if you have a couch you want someone to take away, like a free couch, you might post it on the free giveaway section
Yeah.
of some website. But with AI, these kind of things there's become zero friction.
A better way of dealing with large amount of information. It's beautiful. You mentioned the martial arts there. Is that something you are deep into, or?
Yeah. I've studied martial arts for a long time, mostly jiu-jitsu, and here I'm doing boxing and kickboxing lessons, just because I love sparring.
What's something you learned from martial arts that maybe comes to mind?
The biggest change for me was confidence, in the sense that I'd say when I was younger, there was a certain lack of confidence that came from not being very physical.
Yes.
And with martial arts, jiu-jitsu in particular, you train it for, let's say, 6 months, and you're having a hard time of it because everyone that you're training with is also training and they're better than you. But then someone new comes in and you realize you can just hold them down, do what you want to them, you can tap them out at any time, and you realize that a regular person doesn't know how to fight on the ground.
Yes.
And so you don't have to fear for your safety anymore from physical altercations, without weapons. And that gives you a little bit of freedom to express yourself more.
Yeah.
Like,
It's subtle, but important.
and I think that allowed me to be more myself in a way.
I wholeheartedly agree. I had the same experience, specifically with jiu-jitsu.
Oh, you've trained as well.
Yeah, not like a year or two. It might be also the lack of physicality. I was very much, I don't know, in this modern day and age, you're on the computer a lot. You're maybe not like actually in your whole physical being, unless you're a dancer or something. So
Right.
it does good.
Yeah. Well, I was studying software, and then so um, that's when I started getting back into martial arts when I was 23, because just in school, putting on this weight but not getting any muscle tone, I realized that I was in a bad direction with that, and so.
Yep.
But exercise, I kind of hate it. But when my mind's engaged and I'm in flow state, I don't mind it at all.
Come fucking walk. What's so this kind of pop-up city movement that is now starting? Do you see it as a new thing, or is it just some variation? What are your thoughts on this type of living together for a couple months?
Well, from my personal perspective, it's a way to bridge that gap as a digital nomad. That whenever I go somewhere new, that I have to start over with people and everything. But if it's to a co-live situation, then I have people that are aligned that I can talk to the whole time. But I still have my own personal space, and I'm in a new place, so I get to scratch that travel itch, and often keep going with what I'm seeking in life. And now here at Network School, they put a lot of focus on to making it a place that's healthy to be as well,
Yes.
which normally is one of the main challenges of traveling. So here I find that I'm sharper than ever because I'm eating properly and sleeping well and exercising every day.
That's such a beautiful component that you sleep well, eat well, train well. You are a better human being, essentially.
Yeah, well, we're a machine in a way, and our our intelligence and how much energy we have in a day is a function of like how we're oiling and taking care of that machine, you know?
Yes, it's funny that the humans have been same for thousands and thousands of years, and still we haven't, made this optimal way of oil the machine a norm.
Well, there's always this part of us, like we might know what's best for us, and there's another part of us that is what we want, what the lower system in us wants.
Indeed.
And it's always a struggle against that. If we ever stop fighting, it takes over and starts driving us. And like, if you want a cookie, a cookie is maybe not what you should be having for being as intelligent as you want or for meeting your health goals, but there's still this drive in you. And if you stop resisting that drive, you'll just do that.
Yes.
And people can spend a lot of time in that unconscious state of just following what their body wants. And it becomes a habit to let that happen. You have to like strengthen and elevate the part of you that's your highest part that you want to be driving you.
That's a very human struggle between those two forces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, at the extreme end, if you're just all mind, then you're missing out on all the parts of being human. Like you can maybe optimize and just have some kind of like Soylent style shake that gives you all your nutritional needs. And if you ask people, would you ever do that?
Yeah.
You'd save, an hour or two a day on food, all that time, and you would never make mistakes about eating a cookie or, eating too much ice cream or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But most people would say no, because that's like one of their main joys in life.
It's a subtle balance for sure. What's something in this network school is oriented a lot around Balaji's maybe worldview or values. What in that space is most interesting to you or comes to mind?
I think one of the most persuasive things that he said was, for me, talking about the FDA. The FDA in the US, in some sense, kills people by delaying the release of life-saving treatments or drugs.
Yes.
Right? And because of the massive amount of bureaucracy, it's difficult to change the way that works. And he said something like, it might be easier rather than changing the FDA to make an entirely new country.
Yeah, and an entirely new kind of FDA as well.
Mm-hmm. Right, like you replace the country, you get a new government, and you build the FDA from scratch, whatever that is for protection, but in a less bureaucratic way. And that seems like a lot of work to do, but if we're trying to live longer, it's worth it. And there might be many of those things besides the FDA that are full of bureaucracy that in making a new country you can replace.
Yep.
And maybe there's too much old rust and to really remodel the existing structures. And now at this juncture in humanity with AI and all the changes that are coming, this might be the right time to try again and make something new.
100%, and on a very fundamental level, like the whole society, you can try.
Right. And how would you do that if you could? You would have to get the smartest people you could in the same room.
Yeah.
Living together for months.
I suppose so. There are so many questions to be answered when you do that, but you got to start somewhere, like just the fundamentals. The
Yeah.
FDA, it's very, how you put it, that they're actually killing people by not being as efficient as they could be.
Right.
That's pretty macabre.
Yeah, there was a quote that's something like, when someone dies from a drug that was unsafe, that's a tragedy. And then when thousands of people die from a new cancer treatment that could have saved them, that's just a statistic,
Yep, 100%. That's a persuasive point. What about, so there's this big AI thing. Why do you think it's going to be a sudden unset or a slow, because for instance digitalization is kind of a no-brainer to go into digital tools and digital whatever, but still it takes so long for industry and for humanity to adopt. So it might be that the forefront of people start adopting in a couple of years, but then do you think it's going to take even longer than that to get the whole thing? If that makes sense.
It's hard to know because
Actually, let's U-turn here. That's fucking...
it seems like smart people project that when we have AGI, which maybe we're close to that, but someone that's as smart as the smartest human, then all of a sudden all research takes off because you just deploy thousands of smart people, or smart AIs in this sense,
Yes.
smart intelligences to do all the research you've ever wanted to do. And that's in like material science. And so it's across all the fields. And the singularity idea that all of a sudden all knowledge starts exploding as exploding in scope as we get to that point and we get super intelligence quickly. And that could instruct us on the best way to mobilize for that. Kind of like a war effort where when a country's going to war, they start like mobilizing all their population towards one goal of making their military prowess. And when you have super intelligence that's telling you, yes, you can save all these lives if you deploy this medical equipment, you can feed everyone, you can automate everyone, and everyone can just go to doing what they like with their time.
Yes, yes.
Like that makes sense as a goal that everyone would mobilize towards.
True.
And so it might be very quick in that sense, rather than just the meandering businesses start implementing it, and things get better and better. The apps are better, these kind of things.
Yes.
The slow one, maybe just capitalism continues and people lose their jobs, and then some people still have money and it becomes a whole dystopian thing. But there's also the utopia possibility of like what I was talking about, where everyone sees the finish line of the goal that they want to get to.
Yeah.
Start running towards it.
I love this idea of this that once you reach AGI, it's gonna take off. I feel like that's such a natural conclusion to come to, but I don't hear about it enough. That how you put it, that once you have the smartest human is equivalent, because machines work at like lightning speed. What would take the 10 of the smartest humans in a room a month to do, the machine will do in like 10 seconds. And that just scales to infinity.
Well, there are people that are like see these things coming and they describe it, and everyone kind of nods their head like, okay, you're super smart, I believe you, that all makes sense, but they don't change anything about their lives or what they expect the next 5 years to look like. They're still saving for retirement, or they're like getting ready to go to school. Like there's no reason to go to university if you don't know like what the job market looks like in 5 years,
But it's such a wild shift that it seems like maybe a risky bet for the normal human to like bet my future that it's not going to be the same.
Right.
It seems like, because in nature it's usually the good bet is to stick with status quo. It's going to continue. So it's a very new thing, maybe.
Yeah, something like that is causing people to just stop and not do anything.
Yeah.
They're not even hedging so much.
Yeah, well, just do the normal the normal lives. The school, the kids, the job, and whatever.
Right. I haven't heard of people that are, if there's a alien spaceship heading towards Earth, for example, and the scientists are like, oh, this is happening. Do you think people would change what they're doing with their lives? Like, or would they just be like, maybe it'll just pass us by?
Yeah, I feel like people wouldn't know what to do if not their normal lives. It's like the best thing you can do is keep doing because maybe for many that is the case. It's like nice.
Well,
living.
A lot of people spend a lot of time being unhappy for years in the expectation that there's a certain point where they switch everything. They've got enough money, they retire, or their kids are out of the house or whatever.
Yeah.
And so they put off what they actually want. But then if they got terminal cancer and they were going to die in a year, they wouldn't do the same thing. So that almost everybody would not keep going to work.
That's true.
But so I think it must be that they don't actually believe these changes are happening or are going to happen.
So I can see people like maybe thinking that it might happen, but will it happen in 5 years or 50 years? That might be that question that
Right, there used to being a slow shift with everything. And if you look at the graph of like adoption of AI things, it's like just exponential. ChatGPT was like the fastest growing product ever.
True. It's it's a new time for sure. I like your conviction. It's refreshing to see. Like you are all in on this.
Yeah, well, it all makes sense to me, and I'm watching these things. I'm on top of them to see as it comes out. Like it's on schedule, and it's like
It's happening.
Oh, like similar a year ago, I thought maybe the same thing, but now there's another year's full of data points of continuous growth and all the things that were promised coming to be.
I'm feeling it. I'm seeing it actually for the first time in that things are shifting.
And here we had both Vitalik and Brian Johnson come here and talk about that topic for an hour each.
Yeah, they were both basically committed around that. At least Brian is shifting his whole life around that idea, and Vitalik, I suppose, doing his way.
Yeah, maybe he's not making obvious changes, but
he's thinking about it a lot.
He's thinking about it, yeah.
What's something else before we end you want to share with the people? This was a good talk. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me for this and for asking me these interesting questions.
Yeah, we should continue on these conversations because it's not stopping.
Yeah, this is all I'm thinking about lately is this, but also as a developer, a tinkerer, my mind is alive with all these different things I want to build with it.
It's a good time to use Replit or just create things in general. It's a good time for that. Thanks, Ivan.
Thank you.